Hi. This video deals with mature subjects, such as substance abuse, suicide, violence, and sexual assault. It also contains spoilers for both the first and second seasons of the show 13 Reasons Why, in its attempt to start a conversation. Viewer discretion is advised. I wasn't gonna do this. I wasn't gonna do this because it's been done, like several times by several different people on YouTube, on Tumblr, on Twitter. It's been talked about, it's tired by now, and I'm not one to beat a dead horse. But they did say they wanted to start a conversation, so this is me starting a conversation. Okay, are you ready for the conversation? Okay, here goes the conversation. 13 Reasons Why is a terrible show. Like, it's objectively bad. Okay? Season 1 was bad. Season 2 is somehow worse. For starters, they want us to see the story of Hannah Baker, a girl they believe was driven to commit suicide. They want us to believe was driven to commit suicide by the awful things that happened to her. It was a last resort. She didn't feel like she had any other another way to deal with all the terrible things that are happening. She didn't feel like she had any other out. And then they go and portray her suicide as this trippy power thingy, like a revenge fantasy, where she comes up with this whole elaborated scheme to basically force the people she feels have hurt her to listen to her side of the story and deal with the consequences of their actions. And the crazy thing is that it actually works. It forces Clay, poor Clay, our protagonist, who's an actual nerd, isn't he, into a sort of nervous breakdown that, he's just spiraling down out of control. He sees dead people now for some reason. And more on that later. It inspires a girl to take responsibility for her part in the death of another student who was on screen for all of 5 minutes and who the fandom has decided is too good for this world, too pure. Despite the fact that he's on screen for all of 5 minutes and doesn't have enough character traits to be like more than one-dimensional. And it exposes a rapist, it exposes a rape enabler, it kind of brings light into all the issues that she was dealing with. It exposes the indifference of the school and all that, and then the school is sued by her parents, who were also hurt by her suicide. A case can be made for intentionally hurt for her suicide, but we can never know because that's not addressed on the show. And all of that stuff. So that's a bit confusing, isn't it? Like, Hannah was forced to this. She didn't feel like she had any other choice. Except that, she had the clarity of mind to come up with this huge revenge scheme and either forget or purposefully decide not to leave a note for her parents. Her mom says that. They didn't get a note. So she left basically 13 notes, audio notes, for all the people that have hurt her. But she didn't think to leave one to her parents. And the people that she actually, that actually loved her and cared about her and stuff. And she goes to search for help, and the school is no help at all. And the school counselor loses his job, by the way, because he's also spiraling down in guilt and just beating people up left and right on season 2. And I mean, granted, those are people who actually deserve to be beat up, but still. And she gets technically what she wanted. And the way the show frames it's almost as if she's there to see it. First in the flashbacks and as the narrator, the way she's talking, it's almost as if she's watching that happens. And then on season 2, she's around as a ghost for some reason. And actually, she's not a ghost. She's a figment of Clay's imagination. And here's the thing. That's dangerous. That's actually dangerous to frame suicide as a successful revenge fantasy and then to actually put it in a way that almost feels like the dead person is watching and like seeing her plan work, because she's not, because she's dead. That's it, she died, you know. But that's dangerous to portray it like that, because there are people who might be watching, who might be dealing with suicidal idealization, and you know, like, who might be suicidal, and they might feel inspired by the show to actually go along. There might be copycat suicides. In fact, if you Google it, there have been a couple of, you know, instances. I mean, two families are blaming the show for two teens who committed suicide, and then there was a man who died and left tapes or audio files or something. I mean, he didn't mention the show by name, but he left tapes. I mean, you can't get more copycat than that, you know? It's like if some guy goes around killing and leaving messages in Zodiac language and stuff, he doesn't have to mention the Zodiac Killer by name. You're gonna know he's a copycat of the Zodiac Killer. I mean, come on. But, you know, that's the thing. So that's the first problem. The second problem I had with the show was that it kind of, you know, it gets confused on the message that it was trying to send, because Hannah's suicide was bad, was a tragedy, but it was also a successful revenge fantasy. And then we have a jock whose name I just forgot, but it's played by that cute guy who kissed that singer. I don't know his name either. I'm terrible with pop culture. But that's this jock, and he is a drug addict, and he's homeless for it, and stuff like that. But then you have a whole sequence of the characters, you know, using Molly and being like all deep and stuff. Another thing, real quick. The entirety of Hannah's plot, you know, the revenge plot, depends on the people that she deems responsible for her death caring enough that they'll feel guilty and bad about ending a human life. And the thing is, I don't understand why she would think they would. If she says that some of you cared, none of you cared enough, like, why would she think that they would suddenly care then? And also, why are all the crimes against Hannah Baker somehow presented equally? I mean, everyone gets a tape, everyone gets an episode, and like, yeah, it was really, really bad when that guy published Hannah's, you know, poem without her permission. It was also really, really bad when that guy raped Hannah. I mean, really, put it on a balance here. Which one is the worst? You know, like, you'd think she would spend more time, you know, she would put more blame on the rapist than on the guy who just, like, published her poem without her permission and without her name attached to it, you know? Yeah. And then you have the shock value, okay? Because it's not enough to just, like, romanticize the things they are trying to alert you about. They also need to play them out for shock value. So, on the first season, you have the most graphic suicide scene I have probably ever seen. You know, they go it step by step. And that's also something that you're not supposed to do when you're portraying suicide. You know, and that's also a very triggering scene. I mean, I was triggered by it. I had to literally stop watching and get up and go do literally anything else. And then I was on the verge of a panic attack, a full-on anxiety attack, because of that scene. That was, I mean, I imagine it would be, at the very least, uncomfortable to watch for someone who isn't triggered. And I'm usually not triggered by mentions of suicide or even like discussion of it or stuff like that. But it wasn't just a mention. It was like, okay, except for the fact that the actress is alive and well, it was basically a snuff scene. Okay, she's straight up like they portray it. The camera lingers and like they show the details. They show it happening. They show it happening slowly and in graphic detail. And it's at the very least disgusting and terrifying and disturbing, but it's also triggering as hell. And they were called out for being, too explicit and how bad that was. So in season 2, of course, they learned from their mistakes. I'm just kidding with you, actually. They doubled down. they double down on it. They have a graphic scene where a boy is beat up in the school bathroom. I'm not just saying like casual high school beat up, like punch, punch, punch. No. I mean, they take his head and they smash it on a sink, and then they throw him down. And by the way, he doesn't get a concussion, which is a miracle. And then they throw him down and they rape him with a mop. They rape him with a mop. That was, honestly, that was so awful. That was awful to watch. That was terrible. And it also completely lost all meaning when you realized what they were trying to achieve with the scene. Because, and here's the kicker, the character that gets raped with a mop, for the entirety of the second season, and on the season 1 finale, on the season 1 finale it's just hinted, but on the second season they spend the whole season building it up, that he will be a school shooter, that he's gonna, take one of the many guns that he owns, and he's gonna just shoot up the school. And you kind of expect it to happen the whole season, because they're not subtle. So you're kind of like seeing it, and it's like watching a train wreck that's about to happen. You're like, okay, it's now when the train's gonna wreck? No? Okay, it's now when you go off the trails? No? Okay. And then, he's raped with a broom, with a mop. And that's the trigger. That's what causes him to go home and pick up his guns and go to the Saturday dance that they're having for some reason and decide that he's going to shoot at the school. Just like, kill everyone because he was raped, And that's when the rape scene sort of lost its meaning because, they were not trying to start a conversation about rape. They had already started a conversation about rape when Jessica was raped, when Hannah was raped, when Bryce's girlfriend was raped and somehow stood by his side. Okay? They had already had 3 instances of rape. But you may say, well, they didn't talk about male-on-male sexual violence. That's true, they hadn't. So they go and start a conversation by portraying the most graphic and violent rape scene of the entire show, right? But they did it because they needed shock value to attract viewers. And then they go and make that the motive for the guy to shoot up the school. So what are they trying to start a conversation about? Is it that rape is bad? Is it that rape happens also to guys, which is bad? Is it that school shootings are bad? Or is it that, like, people who are raped are going to go up and shoot schools, Okay, real quick, an interjection here. The rape scene at the end of season 2 and the Hannah suicide scene in season 1, they do about as much to start a conversation about those subjects as the Logan Paul video showing a dead body on the suicide forest does to start a conversation about suicide, which is to say, it doesn't. It's just for shock value. It's just to cause controversy. So people will be talking about the show, so it will draw more attention and make sure you get a season 3, which happened. And that's just below the belt. That's not right. That's taking advantage of something that you're supposedly trying to draw awareness to, and that's bad. And then there's the finale, which is insane. It's like, if season 1 could have inspired copycat suicides, season 2 might get people killed with either a copycat school shooter or a copycat hero wannabe. Because even though the rape was the motive for the shooting, which we've already established was bad, the fact that they spent the whole season inching up to the rape, to the shooting, sort of implies that all of the other things were also a reason. Which, I don't have to explain why, bullying can lead to school shootings is a bad argument, right? I don't have to paint why saying that people who suffer bullying is going to shoot up the school is bad, right? It places the victims at fault. It says victims of school shootings are at fault for school shootings. Oh, if only they had been friendly to the shooter, none of this would have happened. No, that's not true. So, that's bad. But also, if someone's thinking of shooting up their school, is fantasizing about it, is playing with it in their head as a fantasy revenge, as a revenge fantasy, and they see the show and they see Tyler, that's the name of the character, I think, do it, they're like, oh, you know, he had similar motives. That's bad. That's really bad. And then you have Clay, who, when warned of the potential school shooting that was imminent, the imminent school shooting, the school shooting that was about to happen, what does Clay do? Clay straight up goes out of the school and tries to reason with Tyler. And again, the surreal thing is that it works. What the fuck? That's not how that goes. You don't get on the face of an active shooter and try to reason with him. That's like the easiest way to get killed. If you're in an active shooting, you're supposed to like hide and call the police, you know. And then there's the rape as a revenge mechanism, which was how it was presented. This guy's rape was presented as a revenge mechanism, and that might also inspire copycats, you know, if someone's that much of a psychotic asshole. Okay, so that's insane, right? I mean, it's definitely insane in the finale. And the craziest part is that it was all just a hook for a season 3. You have your potential next media format, you know, first were the tapes, then it was the Polaroids, now it's text messages. Then you have a new storyline, you know, because now you're done with Hannah. You need a new focused character and you need a new set of reasons, and now you have, instead of suicide, you have an almost mass murder. So it's like, you know, you kind of shook things up for a third season, and you have a new conflict and you have more drama, and that's insane. That's actually offensive. That's not trying to start a conversation. That's literally just, yeah, I somehow feel that Glee had more tact when dealing with serious subjects. I suppose you're not going to be missing anything if you don't watch 13 Reasons Why. Yeah, you're not going to be missing anything if you don't watch 13 Reasons Why. Also, something that they did do right, in my opinion, was that they created a page of resources for people who are dealing with, you know, those kinds of things that they address on the show, that they try to address on the show. And I'm going to link the page down below, mostly because I found the page actually had some good resources. So, you know, it's important to share, so it's here. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll come with the next video, come out with the next video Thursday, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!